Welcome to Raw and Real. In the hot seat today, delighted to tell you it's Nick Mowbray, co-founder and co-CEO of Zuru Group. Nick, they tell me that you are relentlessly persistent. That is your nature.
Yeah, I get that a lot. That's that would sum me up probably.
The other thing that I thought would sum you up nicely is a saying that I'm rather passionate about, and that is that I am willing to do today what others will not do so that I can do tomorrow what others cannot do.
And yeah, I think that's 100% right, yeah. And I think yesterday's hard work creates tomorrow's opportunity as well. So I think, what you've done in the past just lines you up to do more and more in the future, right? It creates more opportunities.
And for that reason, I don't think neither of us would feel overly uncomfortable about what we've done in the past because it's got us to where we are today.
Yeah, 100% right.
Not that I'm putting myself in anywhere near your level of success. And speaking of that, I also, and forgive me if I've done a lot of research on you.
Sure.
So what I know about you, and I'm sure you know about yourself, is that what money means to you is it's a yardstick that you measure yourself. So I'm hoping you're not going to feel uncomfortable sharing this with me. But because money is a yardstick for you, what is the worth of the Zuru Group now?
You know what? It's we don't really put numbers on it, but I mean we're the top 3 most profitable toy companies in the world.
So it's not 1 billion, is it 2 or 3?
Yeah, it's substantial for sure. I mean that's just
5?
That's just our toy business. That
10.
doesn't take into account everything else. I wouldn't go that far.
Okay,
but,
so we're down to 6.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's substantial because we're a really unique business.
You're okay at 5? I'm a salesman, so are you. Come on, 5 billion.
If you valued us based on an EBITDA of our competitors and our profitability, yeah, we're up around probably 4 to 5.
4 to 5 billion.
So that's the toy business.
Again, slightly uncomfortable, but please, you're a man where money. You're going to do some great things with it, and we'll get onto that shortly. And you are doing great things with it, but so MBR has really muffed your value. But yourself, Anna and Matt, would it be fair to say that you're probably, in your own right, billionaires?
Oh, all these questions. I didn't realise these were going to come.
Oh, I'm going to get these ones out of the way early, and then I'm going to take it really easy on you.
Look, we don't really because we're a private company.
Yeah,
we built the company completely from scratch and completely organically.
Yep.
We've never had outside investment, never gone to banks, and obviously we've built it to a sizable size really quickly. And we're sort of one of the most profitable toy companies in the world because of our unique setup in terms of building the whole company out of China.
And we'll get to that shortly. But
and so we've kind of kept under the radar a lot in terms of numbers and stuff. So we've kind of it's been okay from that.
The longer it takes to draw this out of you, I'm not going to give the answer. So I'll just we can.
I guess so. If you want an answer,
on.
you can say yes.
So you're saying that yes, individually you would be billionaires.
I can't believe I'm having to say this, but yeah, I guess so.
Congratulations. Now, and please don't feel uncomfortable about this, because the thing I can tell you about our member subscribers, the very people that are watching this, is that they couldn't be prouder that you have gone out and you have done this. And we're going to get to that, because I want to ask you this. Had you been accepted into law school for the second year, would you even be here now?
I think so, because we were always pretty entrepreneurial. I think I went to law school just because that was sort of something you did. I wanted to experience that first year of university, so probably even if I'd gone into second year. Actually, I did get in. I got invited back eventually.
Right.
I didn't get in on the first round, but obviously people dropped out, so then they came back to me, but that decision had already been made to leave to go to China. Maybe it would have been a little bit different, but probably not, because, I think it just runs in our blood, right?
Sure.
We've always had, super big visions and super big plans. Even from way back then, right? Our plan was big, and even now, what we could currently doing, we kind of see as kind of small compared to what we want to do. So
and I want to get to that. But you're a great storyteller, and I would love you to share with us the story about Josh Malone. Now, I imagine most people watching this, probably that name doesn't mean anything, but Bunch of Balloons does. If we say that you are a relentlessly persistent person, you were relentless and you were incredibly successful when many other people, they tried, they gave up, and they missed the boat. We are talking about the grand slam of toys.
It is, yeah.
And you'll go into some detail, I'm sure, to tell us about Bunch of Balloons. But how did you win over Josh Malone?
Yes, there's like a number of those examples. I guess in the toy business, product is king, and some of these ground-breaking innovations can really drive your business in a big way. And I always say that most people are willing to sort of try once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, but it's the people that will go 10, 15, 20 times to really persist to find a way and an angle to get in that make it in the end. And with Bunch of Balloons, Josh had actually gone to New York Toy Fair and shown the product. I hadn't seen it at New York Toy Fair, even though I walk around the whole show looking for ideas. And he'd got no response for it. No one was interested. He didn't sell any of it, which is amazing because it's obviously an incredible concept. And then he decided to put it on Kickstarter. And he put it on Kickstarter. And at the time, I think it was the biggest or second biggest Kickstarter of all time when it went on. So it was sort of towards the beginning of Kickstarter about 5 years ago. And it went on to go, I think, over $1 million on Kickstarter. And then it kind of went crazy. All these toy companies went in. All the press picked it up around the world. It was on the Today Show. It was in Business Insider. I think it was in Time. It was sort of everywhere, right, from that Kickstarter success. And, of course, with that success came a lot of toy companies that were sort of approaching him as well to try and get in touch with him to see if they could license the concept. And I saw it, and I thought, wow, that's incredible. And I remember showing it internally, and not everyone was like fully sold on it at that stage, probably because it's quite complex to manufacture. And I said, no, we have to win this. We have to win this concept. So I started trying to contact Josh, and I emailed him. I think I sent him a LinkedIn message, a Facebook message. Like I sort of tried to get in touch with him on every medium, and I was getting no replies. And so I can't remember exactly what I did, but I think we set up a fake toy LinkedIn profile called Toy Recruiter, and we made a third-party reference to our own company from this company saying, hey, you should talk to these guys, Zuru, they'll be perfect for the project. So I kind of created this little front to create my own reference as to how it would be really good for Bunch of Balloons because we're great at automating. And because of one of our other major projects, we'd really built up this huge expertise in China around automated manufacturing. And we knew that with this Bunch of Balloons concept, it was going to be incredibly hard to make 100 balloons in a pack and put 100 O-rings on and do that with labour, right? It would take probably an hour and a half's labour just to make one pack of Bunch of Balloons. So, our angle was that we could automate this whole process. Anyway, so I hadn't had any reply to him until I did this sort of third-party reference as to how Zuru was a great company and he should talk to us. And then I got a reply on another one of my messages. So the first thing I did was get on the phone with them and I said, look, we have to fly you to China. We need to get you on a plane to China. And in that time, I said, we will design up a bunch of automation designs, robot designs, to show you how we think we could make it with robots. And no other toy company is going to be able to do this. If you work with Hasbro, they're going to make it by hand. They're going to outsource the manufacturing. It's going to be like a $20 retail, $25 retail for a disposable product. At that stage, we didn't know what premium we could demand for it, but that seemed extreme and it wouldn't be a success at that price point. So I said, we're the only company in the world that's going to be able to execute on this with automation. The great thing is that Josh had already been trying to manufacture it in China, and he had realised all of the challenges of trying to make this by hand. So he understood that this was a huge hurdle, and the success of this product was to get it to a feasible retail price point, have enough margin to put on huge marketing, and to make it work. So I think that's what sort of hooked him to begin with. So we got him on a plane, we flew him to China.
So hang on, because detail. So where was he based?
He was based in Dallas, Texas. So he's got 8 children. So he came up with the concept because he was sick of every summer filling balloons one by one for his kids.
Wow.
And so he thought that's how he sort of came up with the idea.
So he's in Dallas. You say, we're going to get you on a plane. When did you get him on a plane?
China. It would have been within the week after that. And I knew he had lots of proposals. He was telling us he had lots of proposals. Right,
because what I'm trying to work out is that you're making this up on the fly.
Oh, of course,
You're going to have engineers work on this automation.
Correct.
Whether or not it works or not, it just has to look like it does.
Correct. We were modelling it on computers. We were modelling how the robots could work and make it work. Of course, they were nothing like the final automation machines that we built, but they served a purpose. So on the time that he got to China, we'd already modelled up a bunch of designs that we thought could potentially be feasible to make this thing that's really complicated, because you're like extruding 100 straws, you've got 100 O-rings in a pack, and you're putting a balloon on a straw, putting an O-ring over top of it, and you're doing it all with robots. So really, really complicated to do. And so he got there, and then we'd kind of already shown that we could crack this for him, and that was what I think kind of gave him the belief. And then we basically just kept him in a room. I know my sister had him in a room trying to get a long form or a short form contract done with him before he left, and we did. We got pen to paper before he left, and we got a great deal in the end, and we got it away from companies like Hasbro, which is a $14 billion toy company. And of course now it's for sure the best toy in the world, because it spent 3 of the last 4 years as the number 1 selling toy in North America in all categories, and yet it only sells for 17 weeks of the year.
Because of Christmas,
because
or
it's a spring-summer item. It's a summer item in America, so you're missing over half the year, and it still has sat in the number 1 spot overall toys in dollars. It only got beaten by LOL dolls this year, which is the biggest phenomenon maybe ever in the toy industry, into that number 1 spot. But what's amazing about it is it ticks all the boxes, because we've got 20 years of IP. It solves a problem by 100 times. We've automated all the manufacturing, so the margins are like no other toy. There's really no comparison in any other toy in the world, margin-wise, because it's basically the cost of materials for us, balloons and straws. It's and then it's the number 1 selling toy in the world. So I mean, it has and it's disposable. It's FMCG. Basically, it's fast-moving consumer goods, because you use it once, it's gone in 5 minutes, and then you need to buy another one. So with other toys, once kids are kind of sick of them and move on, then it's done. It's cooked. Like, you're finished. You've got to do another thing and another thing and another thing. So a bunch of balloons doesn't have any of those challenges. And so this year we're taking the brand into all sorts of new areas, which are going to even be bigger than the Bunch of Balloons brand itself.
So just finishing up on a Bunch of Balloons, I mentioned the Grand Slam of toys. So that's not just a thing I made up.
It's the Grand Slam of toys. There's no doubt. I don't think there's any more valuable toy property in the world.
And 20 years. So not that anybody really cares, but what happens after 20 years? I mean, you can still keep making them, but other people
We'll keep making them, and we'll adjust our model. It's like, I think when a drug comes off patent after a time, then you get the generics coming in, but our brand already is so strong, right? We create billions and billions of marketing impressions every year around that brand. And we're launching the next big innovation in it next year, which is outside of water, but still a Bunch of Balloons, which is a much bigger market, and it's probably even more wow. So we think we will over double the size of that business within next year.
Tell me about because I know you have a strategy to disrupt, and it's not just toys. Yeah. Tell us about your strategy to disrupt.
Yeah, well, I think our business is extremely different in terms of, if you compare us to most other toy companies, we went to China, and we first went to China because we didn't really know what we were doing, and we were like, we need to manufacture a hot air balloon, and let's sort of set up our own factory. You were terrible at making toys, weren't you? Terrible for years. Terrible. We didn't know how to design a toy for 4 years. They were horrible. Everything we made was horrible. We were in lawsuits and copied, and half the toys we tried to make ourselves were disasters.
You mentioned the toy. Where did Josh have a stand at the?
Oh, our first New York Toy Fair, and we copied 2 products.
You had to pull both of them.
And we had to pull both of them, before we even
because you ripped off the copyright.
Yeah, and then we were in 2 lawsuits, and we had no money.
You were so green, you had no idea. Yep. But you're a great salesperson, and that's what you bring to the team.
Well,
and obviously Matt's the great innovator, and Anna's the.
Yeah, I always think that sales, you make it easy for yourself by you win the battle before you even go to war.
Yeah.
So it's all in the commercial strategy, the concept, how you're going to do it. And so you've already won the battle before you even go in, right? So the sales is the easy part if you do your job before that, right, with the right innovation, the right idea, the right commercial strategy. That's actually what funded you in those early days, wasn't it? The fact that you were using other people's products and actually channeling through the sales channels, that you worked enormously hard to, in the early hours of the morning, phone calls all around. We kind of paralleled it because we were learning how to make our own products terribly. And so I would go and do a lot of deals with other toy companies that didn't have wide distribution and sell them a big game that I could sell their products into all these other countries. And so, we signed up lots of things, Wazuka, ZB, Zingier, Yoho, David Beck. We did all these product lines, and we took them into other markets. And that really helped us open up all the channels into these other markets. And then when we got really good at developing our own products, they were already sort of open and ready to go. But yeah, it's our business structure, how we've set up out of China. We went there for manufacturing, but then we sort of got it at the right time, and it was much like probably Japan, when Japan used to make all of the world's products, and then they became really good innovators and started to learn all the technology and all the talent, started to move upwards. And we've experienced the same in China. So we've ended up doing everything out of China: our design, development, finance, engineering, automation. We have, our offices in China are incredible, and we just keep growing and growing and growing them. But what that means is our operating costs compared to our competitors are a fraction. So if you go and look at a public toy company or a company that's nearest to us, say a Spin Master, which is, I think, a $4.5 billion valuation, it has operating costs close to, I think, 40%. Our operating costs are like 6 or 7%, but our output is almost as high
because you're manufacturing yourself. It's mainly automated. I mean, which means
so it's actually three core things. So all our design, development, engineering, all that's done in China. Those people are a lot more inexpensive. They work really, really, really hard.
And they're enormously talented because you're getting the creme de la creme of the creme de la creme.
We're getting the best of the best of the best of the best. And that's why our offices in China are like really amazing. And we have like 5 cafeterias and like our offices, and we get all this great talent coming in.
Basketball court.
Yeah, a couple of basketball courts.
I've seen that.
But we get unbelievable Chinese talent. The cost of it's a lot less. So our operating costs are a lot less. Then we're building a lot of our own factories. We've built 4 of our own factories, and then we're going a step further in that we're automating a lot of production in our solid product line. So in our things that are going to be here today, they're going to be here in 10 years, they're going to be here in 20 years, when it's a really fad-based innovative product like Fidget Cube, which for us was our number 2 product or number 1 product last year. It was enormous, but it's basically gone this year. It's like in and out. So we'd never set up automation, a factory to make a product line that's going to be a fad. But in dart blasters, where we ship sort of 35, we'll probably ship 40 million dart blasters this year, 1.5 billion darts. A lot of it's automated. A bunch of balloons is automated. Our metal machines, which competes with Hot Wheels or die-cast cars, it looks like a real car production line, but all with little robots putting it all together. Wow. So our Max blocks to compete with Lego, the whole factory's hands off. So you can program in any combination of blocks, and the factory makes the product start to finish. So we're a third the price of Lego on the shelf and delivering the retailer margin. So it's a really disruptive commercial model. So we're disruptive from a manufacturing standpoint, an automation standpoint, from a design development standpoint, from a cost overhead structure standpoint, from a way that we ship globally. So we actually don't have any wholesale distribution set up. We go direct to major retailer, and we hold no inventory. So our whole model globally is zero inventory, so we have zero costs. We run a really lean front-end model working with the world's biggest retailers. So all that combinates in us basically having a completely disruptive model versus any of our competitors. And yeah, with most of them have heavy structures in each country for bringing in product, distributing it out to retail. We don't do any of that. It's all FOB, ex-China. So for us, inventory is a dirty word, and we try and keep the system or the whole structure as streamlined and as efficient as possible. We're like relentless on simplicity and relentless on like driving efficiency and relentless on driving lean models to drive ultimate profitability. So if you looked under the cover at our company, it's actually like it's almost hard to believe, what we're able to achieve numbers-wise.
So am I right? There was only 1 month you ever lost money?
At the very beginning, way back.
A couple of $100,000 at the time.
12 years ago now.
Yeah, you were making fairly good money, and then there was that 1 month you lost money, and you got together and you
terrible.
Really...
We didn't know how to make toys that sold, but we were getting good at taking other people's product, even if they didn't sell through at retail or weren't successful, or developing our own product. And I could kind of hustle enough to sell a lot of it. We'd never get reorders because the product was so shit and it wouldn't sell very well at retail. But then we'd do another product and do it again, and we could keep kind of doing this, and we were actually making money. And then we did this huge deal with David Beckham and Walmart US. It ended up being kind of a disaster, but we got a little bit complacent for a while. This is probably, I don't know how long ago, maybe 12 years ago. I probably would have been early 20s. And yeah, we lost a couple of $100,000. And, we sat down, I think me and Matt and Anna, and we said, from this day on, we're not ever going to have a month where we lose money again. We'll like change everything if we have to. We'll fire half the company if we have to, but we're going to make sure that every single month we're profitable. And it's funny, when we made that conscious decision, And we said, like, we're going to do whatever it takes in our business. We just became more and more and more profitable. And every month for like 12 years, we just got better and better and better and better and better because we take this relentless approach towards driving efficiency and being lean and building like a more and more profitable business. So it's people wonder how we can get to our size so big so quickly and completely self-fund without ever going to a bank or without starting with 20 grand. And essentially it's because we've driven an incredibly profitable company from, in the very beginnings, and we lived on no money, and we lived in on no rent and no food and no nothing for like 6 or 7 years. So that all sort of combined, we never spent anything ever.
Okay, so we'll move on from toys after just this last question. What I want to know is because you've sort of said that you didn't hit the ball out of the park. In fact, you didn't hit the ball out of the park very often at all with toys that had a shelf life, that like bunch of balloons and like the X-Shot. So when do you decide to go all in with the automation and all in with the factories on a toy?
So our strategy has really changed over the last probably 2 years, to be honest. And we have to understand what we can be best in the world at. And we're best in the world at working out how to automate a complex product and how to bring it to market in a lean way, way better than any of our competitors. So our strategy is now becoming less fad orientated, so less going after the big trends in toys. We're always going to do that to a certain degree, but more to go into stable categories and disrupt them from a price, value, margin standpoint. So, we're building lots of brands, whether it's blocks against Lego, whether it's metal machines against Hot Wheels, X-Shot against Nerf, Ush against Play-Doh. We're building actually lots of brands where they have a forever life cycle in terms of those brands, and we can slowly build them step by step by step by step, because we look at something like our X-Shot business, and it's just such an incredible business. Every year we ship, well, it just grows every year. This year we'll be up to close to 40 million blasters, and every year that grows, and it's just a very stable business, and we can automate the manufacturing, and we can keep refining and getting more efficient and working out ways to keep doing it better. So we kind of changed a little bit from going for the big hits all the time to maybe hitting more the ones and twos that we can build over the long term. And we've moved a lot away from licensing. We used to have a lot of Disney licensing, DreamWorks licensing on products, but we couldn't really control and build our own destiny. We had lots of problems where eventually we'd lose a license or the line would go on a fad and it would come down. So now our strategy is very much to use our core strengths, which is on the manufacturing, automation, lean, direct-to-retail model globally, and really go on and disrupt a lot of these big categories. And it's kind of been a consolidation year actually this year a little bit for us, so we can go and execute that strategy and start building all these factories and all these robots and automated production lines. But in the long term, it's going to be an incredible strategy for us to drive growth, and we kind of have a moat around that part of our business, because for anyone to come in and compete and do what we're doing is incredibly hard. One, they don't have the operating cost structure to work. When you have a low operating cost structure, if we want to, we can work on an incredibly tight margin structure as well as being automated, as well as owning our own factories. Everyone else just outsources to inefficient factories that are still making by hand. So we have almost 4 layers of moat around that business that people just can't compete against us, right? Like, for them to do it, they have to come and set up what we have in China. We have 5,500 people there. And so it's pretty hard to go and do what we've done.
One last question,
Sure.
Just because we all like our numbers. How many darts are you making a day, and how many bunch of balloons are you making in a day?
We make I think we're making close to 2 million darts a day, and bunch of balloons, how many million? We're making probably 2 billion balloons a year, and bunch of balloons, or maybe more than 2 billion balloons. I don't know. No, it must be more than that. It must be 3 billion balloons a year. We ship over 30 million packs a year of bunch of balloons. So over 3 billion balloons. Yeah, and then in die-cast, we're shipping millions and millions and millions. Blocks, we've just launched exclusively with Walmart in the US, and the line's on fire, so that's exploded. Lots of our trend lines are doing incredibly well. Rainbow Corns right now is in the top couple of girls' toys globally. 5 Surprise, Smashes. We have a lot of brands. I think 20, maybe 25 brands now. And we just keep growing it, really.
So where else has Zuru Group gone? Toys aside, where else have you gone?
Yeah, I mean, our biggest project, which I'm not going to talk too much about, is our housing project, where we have worked on it for 11 years. It's my brother's baby, where we're building buildings on production line, houses on production line. You design the whole house in our software, and everything's finished in incredible graphics. So you build your house in our software, you can go through it in virtual reality, you can move furniture in virtual reality, you can pick and match things, and then basically our factory that we're building, we've built the small scale of the factory, but the large scale will basically build your whole house for you, start to finish, and it will go together kind of like IKEA kit set, so we can ship anywhere in the world. So that's our biggest project. I don't know how many people we've got on it, but we've got offices in Italy. Our Italian office is building the software, and it has about 40-something odd people in it. Then we have an Indian office, which supports it on the software build. And then we have a huge R&D center in China, which has built the most incredible automation robots you'd ever see. It makes a Tesla factory look kind of boring. And so that's our biggest project. But Matt's been working on that for 11 years and has a huge team across China, Vietnam, Italy, and India on that. So we're some way away, and we've filed over 1,000 patent claims globally. So because of all the IP we're filing, we can't go into too many details on it. And then sort of my baby, the one that I'm really excited about, is I started sort of studying all these digitally disruptive brands that are popping up in America over the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years. Brands like Dollar Shave, Harry's, Method, Halo Top Ice Cream. And it's amazing now that you can disrupt these big stodgy categories with digitally driven challenger brands that you couldn't do in the past. And that's all because over the last 60 years, media has been very linear in terms of to advertise. Big brands could lock out challenger brands because they had to spend so much on TV advertising. And so they controlled the consumer's mind. But that whole pendulum's changing because of targeted social and digital media. So Facebook has up to 29,000 data points on an individual. And the AI and the optimization of those data points around targeted ads is just incredible now. It's unbelievable, even where it's come to in the last 2 or 3 years. So I can target a specific audience and talk to them specifically. So that is changing the whole landscape of FMCG companies globally. So if you look at the S&P 500, the worst performing stocks over the last 5 years are all the big FMCG companies. Are down on average between 13 and 18%. And that's incredible because they used to be treated as bonds. They were consumer goods. They used to be treated as just the most safe investment for steady long-term growth. That's all changed. So basically digital challenger brands are throttling growth of big national brands. People want more transparency. They want brands that are relevant to them, millennials and Gen Z. They want a whole lot of different things. And even millennials and Gen Zs now are consuming brands and consuming advertising in totally different ways. And so our generation before used to, you'd see TV advertising. Now a millennial is 70 or 80% more likely to trust and consume advertising around a product through their social media and digital platforms. So there's this huge opportunity to create brands that are relevant to new audiences, so relevant to millennials and Gen Zs, which is what Dollar Shave did, or Harry's, or Method, or any of these brands that have grown. They've grown to billions in just a couple of years. And there's a huge opportunity to go and help solve commercial problems in these categories, because what's happened over the last 60 years is these big FMCG companies, because they've controlled the consumer's brain around their brand, they have got more and more greedy, more and more fat, and they deliver less and less margin to retailers. And so you'll see in a lot of these categories, the biggest FMCG companies are delivering tiny margins. So there's an opportunity to go on and solve commercial problems as well for retailers. And there's a lot of macro shifts. Another big macro shift that's happened is obviously online retail. When it has the same product mix or same brands as bricks and mortar, online's been bringing prices down, which has eroded margin for bricks and mortar. So retailers now need more brand differentiation than ever before. There was never really an opportunity to create a lot of brand differentiation, but now you can because of the power of social and digital and targeted marketing. And so, what I'm sort of doing is I'm building a whole slate. I don't know how many it is now. I think 9 FMCG, so fast-moving consumer goods brands. We started with a friend of mine had a small nappy brand in Hamilton, which he was just selling online. And that was kind of our experiment. And my thinking behind that was, Kimberly-Clark, Procter & Gamble have dominated this market. They're both $10 billion brands globally. But they're old and they're stodgy and they still use Disney licenses on them and Winnie the Pooh plastered all over them. They're not cool, right? So how do we create a nappy brand which is more transparent, has no chlorine, no formaldehyde, no bleaching, no lotions, no latex? It's made with sustainable pulp from sustainable forests, it's a trendy design that mums want to share their kids on social and digital media. We looked at how we could tick all these boxes. How do we deliver more margin to retail partners to help solve the commercial problems in the category? So we went in with this unbelievable game plan around it. And then how do we use, mums with kids and nappies are a highly segmented audience, right? And so if you go and use traditional media, probably 90% or 80% of the views of your media are wasted because those people don't have kids that are wearing nappies. But with the power of targeted media means we can be so efficient around our targeting around it. And so we can target that exact audience with our ads. And, the net result was obviously we launched in New Zealand and we've taken over 20% market share. I think we're at maybe 23% market share now in foodstuffs.
It's a great interview I watched. What was the name of the company?
Rascal and Friends.
Rascal and Friends. Have a look at it online. Fiona Rotherham interviewed you and your business partner.
And so now we're taking that, and we've just launched Rascals in Australia with Coles. It launches next week with Walmart, or in 2 weeks with Walmart, with Tesco's, with Migros, Co-op. We launched at Tesco's Thailand, just launched with Redmart in Singapore. So we're launching the brand globally in just about every country. Mexico with Walmart, Brazil with Carrefour. So, and it's an enormous market. I think in New Zealand we're doing 600,000 or 700,000 nappies a week. And so when we scale it into all these other markets, we're going to build a pretty significant business really quickly. I'd like to think probably New Zealand's fastest company ever to go to 100 million in revenue. So that's exciting. So on the back of that, we're building a slate of these FMCG brands. So we launch our pet food brand, Nude, with Walmart on May the 1st this year, about 70 items. We built all the automation, all the production lines. We didn't actually own the factories, but we put all our own production lines in the factories in Thailand and America. We're launching a femcare line called Me Femcare. We're launching that soon. We're launching a water brand. We're launching a vitamin brand. A bunch of them. A laundry brand. So
you are just relentless.
Yeah. We're taking the same model, and well, it's a significant opportunity to do things differently to what they've been done before. The last 60 years has been dominated by one model, and now there's a way to create a disruptive model in so many ways. There's what I call 4 big macro changes around the world that are occurring that allow us to solve problems and to use those macro changes to our advantage and actually to retailers' advantage as well.
So purpose before profit.
Yeah, I do all these things. Like, to be honest, I don't need to do them. But it's I guess it's like a bug, right? I just enjoy that. I enjoy the new challenge. Like, this FMCG business has become like a little bit of a new challenge, which is really nice, and it's really amazing to see how it's taken off so quickly. Like, I had a plan in my mind for it, but to see it sort of come together so quickly is kind of exciting. But it's not about creating more money. I kind of wanted to do something more out of New Zealand as well, and we're using a lot of really amazing young New Zealand talent, which is awesome. But also, if I see that big, huge opportunity globally, and I think we can create a 21st century Procter & Gamble, I strongly believe we can do that in the next 5-10 years. I just it's sort of the motivation is to go after the goal and try and succeed at it more than making more money from it. So that's sort of, like you said earlier, it's just kind of the yardstick. But there's this constant drive to keep doing more, I guess. I don't know why.
We're all readers. I know 2 of your favourite books, Good to Great and Think Simple.
Yep, very much so. Maybe, and How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think all 3 kind of give you that sense. I mean, Good to Great is incredible. Good to Great is so bang on. If you apply the principles of Good to Great, and you look at them in Jim Collins, they wrote that book, I think, over 20 years, right? Analysing companies and analysing why one succeeded and one didn't succeed, and working out the principles. And all those principles of the successful companies, the ones that went from good to great, were the same, effectively. And it's really, 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 really true. And so I love Good to Great. It's probably my favourite book of all of them. And then, Think Simple is what it is. Thinking simple is all about how do you simplify every process? How do you simplify things so your salespeople can go out with a simple message? How do you simplify and streamline your back end? How do you simplify a concept? How do you rationalize down? How do you make individual products or SKUs more productive, more efficient? And doing simple well is really hard. And as you get bigger as a company, like we had probably with my brother and sister a 3-hour conversation the night before last, even about Zuru, because it's so easy to get more and more complex. And as you get bigger, complexities naturally start to like leak into your business, and you get more unproductive across more people. People's ROT, return on their own time, becomes worse. Products become less productive because there's more of them and you can't manage them as well. And just more complexities like start coming into a business as you get bigger. So the trick is, there's a great saying is that management is about managing complexity. Leadership is about creating simplicity. And so day-to-day management is, you're kind of managing complex problems and problems all the time, and that's your day-to-day. You're in the weeds. But leadership is how you can create more simplicity at a really macro level to make your business even more efficient and simple. And that's how you build like profitable businesses as well. And so I'm a big believer in that word: simplicity, rationalization, productivity. And the last one, of course, is how to win friends and influence people. I mean, if you can't persuade people, or if you can't have great relationships, you can't do it on your own. So whether that's with your staff, your colleagues, your customers, the people you're trying to get a deal with, any of that, you have to have, that full bank of skills. And it's a good book to always read. I'm actually just reading it again now for probably the 5th time, just to remind yourself of all those like little things, right, that help. So
do you highlight things? Do you write on your book?
Sometimes, yeah. I actually give a lot of books away. Like I just ordered last night, I think I asked my girlfriend to order like another 10 copies of Good to Great, because I end up just giving them to everyone. And then I have none myself, and I'll do another order and I give them all out again. So, and I give them to our staff and stuff. So yeah, they're definitely good lessons.
This has been really special. Nick Mowbray, thank you so much for being genuinely raw and real. We watch with great interest, anticipation, and joy, satisfaction, and pride what you and your brother and sister are doing, and the flag that you are waving out there
we just hope maybe it can help inspire New Zealand to create even more global companies, right? Because I don't think we create enough like truly global companies, and I think everyone has kind of this barrier that they think's there. But if you have like a really good vision and you're really, really persistent for a long period of time, because it takes a long period of time, you've got to be relentless. It took us years to crack into a lot of the biggest retailers, right? Even in New Zealand, I think it took like 6 years to get into the warehouse. So it takes a certain amount of persistence, but once you get there and you get to the top of the hill and you see how everything works together, then it's worth it.